Hello, hello, hello. Hi, and welcome to my channel. Yes, it's 5:56. Whoop, whoop, whoop. If you know, you know. Woo. I've never been so excited to not see an angel number or a master number. I take that back. I was that excited like 2 days ago when I saw 5:56 again. So last night, the moon was out. We got this super moon. It's already pretty big. It's gonna be a super flower moon, full moon Capricorn, super moon. And when I saw it, it was peeking from behind trees, and it was also behind some clouds. And so it really looked like the moon was sort of in the heart of darkness and illuminating everything. And I don't know if you can see it, but that's the picture. Oh yeah, you can. That's the picture I took. You can see the trees, and it's not a great picture, but the moon is in there, and it's like cloudy or whatever. And I was gonna do something last night, but that didn't happen. So here I am today. I'm like, here's another picture, but like these aren't as good. Like, ooh, what's that? Right? But that one, you can kind of sort of see it, like had the trees and stuff and the clouds. So I am going to be using the I use the Mystical Dreams Tarot. I guess the Tarot Apocalypsis. And the Spirit Keepers Tarot? How do I want to do this? Because I'm trying to think. It would be 1, 2. That would be 4 decks. Excuse me. Let's do it, I guess. And then I use the Tarot Apocalypsis because I have this. And I don't want to use the Wild Unknown. I'll use the Vice Versas. He says with resignation. So we're going to use all of these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull before and after the moon, and I'm going to see if I can intuit I'm going to see if I can intuit what the moon is illuminating right now. There we go. Goodness. Words. Words, Patrick. Words. Oops. And I'm going to timestamp when all the cards are out because I feel like it's going to take me a second. Timestamped for your consideration. I was going to pull out a die, roll up a number, do a sign reading, put some effort into the thumbnail. Ooh, the Holy See with the Ace of Wands, which is a high refined energy. The Dark Horse and the Holy See. The Chariot and the Holy See. Can anyone take down the Holy See? Let's see. The Mason and the Chariot. Okay. It's a collaborative effort. There we go. This one is ready. I'm going to shuffle all of these up, and then I'll look. And I might use the Wild Unknown Tarot to go around everything that comes out for an extra layer if I feel it. So I'm going to try to make sure to get some backs. Oops. Some card backs. Because this is the Vice Versa. I just saw the Lovers. Was that the King of Swords? I wonder which side of the moon it'll be. LOL. I'm not ready. Okay. Ooh. So I'm going to do the top and the bottom of the deck. This is going to be the significator. And this side of the moon is actually an eclipse. It's a solar eclipse. So I'll do the top of the deck and the bottom of the deck since that card actually fell out. It's the Four of Wands and the Nine of Wands, with the Eight of Wands left at the top and the Two of Swords left at the bottom. Okay. Well, that was a bit before I was ready, but that's fine. This card is interesting. I feel like this is another one. It almost speaks to fatigue, I guess. And so maybe... Oh gosh, I can feel a headache coming in. It's interesting that both of these are in the same sky. Right? The sky is the same. So it puts them in the neighborhood of being the same. Is that a Gallarhorn? Maybe? Hey Siri, what is a Gallarhorn?
Okay, I found this on the web for what is a Gallarhorn. Check it out.
You're pronouncing Gallarhorn wrong. Okay, well that doesn't help me. I don't know if Gallarhorn is the name of the actual thing. In Norse mythology, Gallarhorn is a horn associated with the god Heimdallr, and the wise being Mimir. Gallarhorn is attested in the Poetic Edda, compiled in the 13th. Okay, let's get it. So yeah, this is it. All the way back to Norse mythology again. Are we surprised? Heimdall, the wise being Mimir, attestations. The use of the horn as both a musical instrument and a drinking vessel is not particularly odd, and that the concept is also employed with tales of the legendary old French hero Roland's horn, Oliphant. Using Gallarhorn, Heimdall drinks from the well and thus is himself wise. Mimir's well. In chapter 25 of not even gonna try. High tells Gangleri about Heimdall. High mentions that Heimdall is the owner of the trumpet, Gallarhorn, and that its blast can be heard in all worlds. In chapter 51, High foretells the events of Ragnarok. After the enemies of the gods will gather at the plain, I'm not even going to try, Heimdall will stand and mightily blow into Gjallarhorn. The gods will awake and assemble together at the thing. Will assemble together at the thing. I love that. Did I write that? I'm just playing. Okay. So, Heimdall used Gjallarhorn to drink from Ymir's well and attain wisdom. He blows the horn to awaken the gods, which is interesting. For a few reasons, actually. It's also interesting that... So, in the Nine of Wands, the helmet is on the ground. In the Four of Wands, we see a ram skull and a dove. Which means it's almost like the war is over type of energy. I guess. Oh, here they are. I was like, where did those cards just go? The one card that fell out would be the moon. When I was like, I wonder which side of the moon is going to come out. The eclipse side. Of course it's the eclipse side. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go around with the Wild Unknown Tarot, but due to limited space. But we'll see. We got two more. Actually, that's the last one right there. That feels good. Feels... Oh, with the title card at the top of the deck. Okay. Okay. Let's see, Moon. What are you highlighting? What are you illuminating? It feels like it's bringing light to a dark space. And since it was a nearly full moon and a super moon, that's like a lot of light. Like a lot of light. Because the moon is so close to the earth right now. I feel like I have this low-key headache that's just like sitting menacingly. I also love that this is the side... Oh my gosh. If the Lady of Pentacles comes out, that's what this reminds me of. That reminds me of the Lady of Pentacles rising from her slumber underwater, under the sea of awareness. That's one of the seas, right? The Great Salt Sea of Awareness or something like that. And she's like, she's got a light in one hand and she's got a bowl in the other. Right. Here you go. I'm kidding. I mark these videos as not for children. But you see like the bowl in one hand and then the light in the other. I don't know if the water in the bowl is any different than the water that she's arising out of. But it also almost feels like the water of her womb. This also reminds me of High Priestess energy because of the two pillars. But this is like a really, 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 really old energy. Because look at how worn they are. And there's also this energy here that speaks of alignments with this solar eclipse. But I'm not sure what that alignment would be. I think that planet right there would be Uranus, where it splits. Because I had a dream one time, and it was like Uranus is making two aspects, and they were like both squares. Those don't really seem like squares, though, because a square would be like here. So maybe it's a trine? I don't have a protractor with me, so I can't measure the degree of that angle. So this is this. I'm going to start here. And so I'm going to look before and after card number 18, which might not be the moon. There's card number 17. Oh, it is the moon. So we have the Ouroboros, which is not exactly surprised with this Gallarhorn old energy on one side, and the Nine of Wands again on the other side. The Nine of Wands is going to be next to the Nine of Wands. And then we have Judgment at the top of the deck. Or Judgment is left. Okay. Is that the Dream Protector? Yeah, the Dream Protector and Judgment. That's Emperor energy. And then the Three of Swords is behind that. So, like, there's something that this energy has to liberate itself from. Or, I guess us, or we. Let me timestamp this, I guess. Timestamp it for. Oh, it's only been 16 minutes. I'll timestamp it 17 minutes. Oh, snap. 1700. So, there's something that masculine energy has to liberate itself from to claim the energy of Dream Protector, and that is the space that he sits in to welcome in this new chapter with Judgment. Judgment kind of sort of is old Norse Ragnarok energy. The end of the world. Or something like that, right? I like this energy though, because it feels like this Three of Swords character faces their higher potential, which it perceives as this fire. And after it reaches that Dream Protector energy, it almost faces its past, and it perceives that as water. Right? So it's almost like there's this whole flood of emotion associated with the Three of Swords that the Dream Protector has to keep himself from. Not in a like a bypassing way, but in a way where it's like he's basically learned the lessons from it. And so he doesn't carry as much of the hurt and the pain with him. So on one, it's a wall of fire. For the other, it's a wall of water, which is interesting. And then we come into that Judgment energy, where they're in the water and the sky is on fire. Or not. Maybe it's just nighttime. Who knows? But I do need to move these. So we got the Ouroboros, the Nine of Wands. It's interesting that the Ouroboros is here with tree imagery. Because, you know, they say that it was the snake in the Garden of Eden. So that is interesting. It is interesting, though, that we have Nine of Wands and Nine of Wands. And this could be Heimdall. I could see this being Heimdall. But Heimdall stands at the Bifrost Bridge, question mark? That's Heimdall, right? I think Heimdall is also able to freely navigate between the realms, if I'm not mistaken, and I might be. Because I know in the Almighty Johnsons, it's like Heimdall could walk into a door and he could be anywhere. Heimdall was also the one that protected Frigg. And it's interesting that in that show, I'm pretty sure it was Frigg. In that show, instead of Odin going for Freya, Odin went for Frigg. In the Almighty Johnsons. Here we go. Does Odin and Frigg in the Almighty Johnsons? Okay. When Odin and Frigg were reunited and remarried at the God, they emerged from Axel Johnson. Okay, and I'm not going to spoil it. Along with all the other gods in the Johnson family and friends, and they returned home to Asgard. So yeah, in the show, Odin goes for Frigg. It's also interesting because in God of War, they say that Frigg and Freya are the same person. But Frigg is who Freya became after Odin sort of like took from her what he wanted and then, left her, basically. And so then that carrying over into the Almighty Johnsons is like this reconciliation between Odin and Frigg Freya. Odin sort of righting the wrong that he did to her. What if all of these come out with the 9 of Wands on the bottom? That would be hilarious. Oh, darn it. Well, the pattern is broken. So this time we have the Prince of Wands. Again, the Prince of Wands came out yesterday. Or the last time I used this deck. And it came out above the Emperor. I'm actually going to use this card to clarify the Prince of Wands, so I hope that's not the card I'm looking for. So it's the Prince of Wands and the Princess of Cups. I thought it was almost a Prince of Swords. And the Princess of Cups came out as the space of its Psyche. She represents the soul and like awakening and stuff like that, right? With the High Priestess at the bottom this time. Even though technically it would have been the Prince of Swords. I already timestamped this. I'll timestamp it again for like all cards. Or maybe I'll just change the timestamp. But I already talked a little bit, so I'll just keep it, If you gotta watch a bit, I apologize. So, now let's look for the Necromancer. Oh, it's literally right here. So the Necromancer is coming out, I guess I'll go this way, with the Giver and the Bereaved, the 3 of Swords. With the Ace of Swords at the bottom this time. Is that the 2 of Swords? No. Oh, look, there's the 9 of Wands. The 9 of Wands is behind the Ace of Swords. That's Moon and Sagittarius. This is interesting. So there's a lot of Wands. 4 of Wands, Prince of Wands, 9 of Wands twice. 6 Pentacles. 3 Swords, and the Princess of Cups. The element that's the least present is water. After that is air. Because it's 3, I guess. Or does the Princess rank higher? I don't know. I am going to pull the Wild Unknown Tarot outside of this. So I am going to adjust the timestamp. Excuse me. There are 2 9 of Wands though, so I'm only going to get it once. But right off the bat, there's this energy that the moon is sort of highlighting and illuminating. It feels like there was a transgression made against feminine energy by masculine energy. Because in the 9 of Wands, well, if I read it from top to bottom, it's like there was a time a long time ago where masculine and feminine energy were in balance. with this Four of Wands. And then the Prince of Wands is featured, who is Anubis, I believe. And then in the present, it's like there's this reconciliation, there's this healing and mending between the two. And then below that, Princess of Cups, and then the Nine of Wands twice. So it feels like feminine energy is in a space. It almost feels like feminine energy is in a space of wanting to move forward. But masculine energy, it's still in the space of completing something. And I would say it almost feels like masculine energy is needing to swallow its pride, and it may be a little difficult, but I don't know. We'll get into it. We'll see. And then from left to right, it's like, well, here's this sort of old heartbreak with with the Princess of Cups. And present, there's this energy of sort of like, it feels like it's looking back on fond memories and it doesn't know what to do to get back to that. But in the future, it comes into its own. And I want to say it balances something out. Maybe there's something for it to release. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay. So I'm looking for the Three of Swords, the Daughter of Cups, the Nine of Wands, the twice or once, the Six of Pentacles, the Son of Wands, and the Four of Wands. With the Wheel of Fortune. I don't know if I mentioned that. So Three of Pentacles is out first with the Fool and Judgment. Three of Pentacles, the Fool, and Judgment. We're in a space of collaboration right now. I mean, collaboration is going to get us out of this space of judgment. Judgment came out of one of these decks, didn't it? I think so. I don't remember what was behind it, though. Son of Cups, no. I'm pulling these from the top. So, the Two of Pentacles and the Devil. The Two of Pentacles and the Devil is going to be clarifying this Ouroboros. And I was talking about the snake that was in the tree, wasn't I? I was like, it's interesting. We got the snake up here and the tree down there. And then we got a dude with, antlers. I guess. Four of Wands. So this is coming out with Temperance and the Son of Wands, which is perfect because the Son of Wands is right here. Oops. And so that's coming out with the Seven of Wands after that. So the Nine of Wands is coming out with the Ace of Swords, which it just did, right? It was the Ace of Swords with the Nine of Wands behind it somewhere, question mark. Ace of Swords, Nine of Wands. Yeah, it was right here. Ace of Swords, Nine of Wands. That came out today. I mean, that comes out again. And I love that in this deck, since it's hanging from the World Tree, there almost is that energy of, like, doing something to gain more knowledge. And then the Eight of Wands is here. I think the Eight and the Nine of Wands were really close together somewhere. It was at the top of the deck after these. The Eight of Wands was behind the Nine of Wands here. So there is, like, the Nine of Wands is very self-referential, which is interesting. And the Four of Wands into this Prince of Wands energy also did something. I don't know why of us used to just popped into my mind again. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. Maybe it don't mean nothing. Of us yeast? Six of Pentacles. So the Six of Pentacles is going to be coming out with the Hanged Man and the Son of Swords. And it's interesting because the Prince of Swords was behind this Princess of Cups. So I need the Three of Swords and then the Daughter of Cups, and that's it. So the Three of Swords is coming out with the Father of Cups and the Ace of Cups. And then the Daughter of Cups, last but not least. Woo! Thank goodness. The Daughter of Cups is coming out with the Five of Pentacles and the High Priestess. And we just saw the High Priestess. The last two cards, it's the Ten of Pentacles and the Seven of Swords. The Seven of Swords for me in this deck is the card of Birthright. The Seven of Swords carries this energy of like, once we fulfill certain conditions, then this last sword is revealed to us. The last sword sitting in the space of the Ten of Pentacles. That's cute, I guess. Here we go. Let me put these back in the box so I can... And I'm actually going to take a picture of this to use as a thumbnail before I forget, because if I do it at the end of the video, I like always forget. Also, the fair is in town, and I've been craving a funnel cake for years, and I'm excited to go get one. That was all. Alright. I do want to see what this card is right here, though. It's the Empress! That is interesting. Let me timestamp this. So I'll timestamp it at 3250. 3250. 3250. Make a buck. Make a buck. Spin. Spin. Make a buck. Make a buck. Bye, 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 bye. Make a buck. Make a buck. Spin. Spin. Make a... Cash or credit card. Oh, gosh. 3250. I haven't. Man, I wish I could find that full song. So for context, when I was in elementary school, I did a lot of like show choir-y type of singy plays, excuse me, types of things. I'm gonna blow my nose real quick. Ooh, almost hit stop streaming. So when I was in elementary school, I did a lot of like little musicals and singy things, and then when I went to middle school, I was like, ew, like, you know, that's kind of gay, and I don't want to do that because I'm trying to fly under the radar, so I stopped. But anyway, it was around Christmas, and there was this song that we were singing about consumerism as children, and at the end of the song, we had like these little plastic coins, and we were told to throw them. And somehow, us little crappy kids got together real quick and decided that we were going to throw them at the music teacher when we were done. They were like, at the end, throw your coins at music teacher. Insert music teacher's name. And we yelled like, bye! And then we threw them. And man, I was just like, wow. Because she was like conducting us. But they kept saying, they said 3250. I don't know what was 3250. I don't remember. Anyway, so back to this. So the outside of this energy is really interesting. So reading the outside, and I'll read it counterclockwise, because why not? So, Son of Wands, Temperance, Two of Pentacles, the Devil, the Father of Cups, the Ace of Cups, the Five of Pentacles, the High Priestess, the Eight of Wands, the Ace of Swords, Knight of Swords, or Son of Swords, the Hanged Man, and the Seven of Wands. And then inside, again going counterclockwise, it's the Four of Wands, the Ouroboros, which is the Wheel of Fortune, the Bereaved, which is the Three of Swords, the Princess of Cups, the Knight of Wands, the Nine of Wands, the Giver, which is the Six of Pentacles, the Prince of Wands. And then this eclipse moon is in the middle. Where do I start with this? So the first cards that came out was the Four of Wands and the Nine of Wands. And in the Four of Wands, it looked like he was holding a Gallarhorn. And the Gallarhorn, it's what Heimdall used to drink from Ymir's well and to gain wisdom. It's also said that its call can be heard throughout all of the realms. And then the Nine of Wands is here. It almost feels like this Nine of Wands energy is somewhere else. It almost feels like he's somewhere that only the Gallarhorn would sort of reach him. And it almost feels like he's been here for a while. Now, clarifying this Nine of Wands, we have two Nines of Wands. And what came out with the Nine of Wands was the Ace of Swords and this Eight of Wands. So there is some sort of information that this Nine of Wands figure receives that is like this divine inspiration energy. It's almost the space of intervention, but it's not. Because it feels like while this Nine of Wands energy is out here fighting, doing whatever it's doing, where it's doing it, it's gaining wisdom. And this is a hard-earned wisdom. This isn't a wisdom that it's gaining by simply like hanging from a tree or drinking from a well. It almost feels like a wisdom that's accumulated through lifetimes, because the Reaper is back there in the tree. But it also feels like it's been so long, or this Nine of Wands energy has been so separate that it forgot why it's out here in the first place. But it feels like with that Gallarhorn call, it's like it's going to snap it back. It's going to remember. And maybe that Gallarhorn is this information. It's also interesting that in the Nine of Wands, he's holding a sword. And this is the Mystical Dreams Tarot. So it may almost be coming in through a dream space. It's giving me an energy of some mythical hero, but I am not recalling who right now. Almost like Simba from The Lion King, I guess. Right? Where he's sort of out doing his own thing, and then he gets reminded about the kingdom that, he sort of, I don't want to say abandoned, but left. Clarifying this Prince of Wands is the Seven of Wands and the Hanged Man. Also, the Empress is here. She just kind of sort of attached herself to it. But the Son of Wands was also coming out with Temperance to clarify the Four of Wands. So now it creates like this little umbrella up here. Temperance, the Son of Wands, the Seven of Wands, and the Hanged Man. It's almost the space of things that he could only discover while he was out there. It reminds me of the show I'm watching where they summon 4 legendary heroes. And if the 4 heroes are too close to each other, then they don't gain any experience. So that separation was needed to grow something within him. And it feels like it's introducing water to a space of fire. And that reminds me when I was shuffling up the Mystical Dreams Tarot after these cards came out, the Emperor, which was the Dream Protector. It was Judgment. That's where Judgment was. It was Judgment, the Dream Protector, and the Three of Swords. And the Three of Swords is right here. So for masculine energy, it's like this greater potential lied beyond a wall of fire for them. And for Emperor Dream Protector energy, their past self lied beyond a wall of water. And there was this energy where like the wall of water was almost like really, really heavy emotions. And the wall of fire was, I guess it was the space of purification and refinement for him to become sort of who he will be by the time the call comes for Judgment Day. And that Galler horn, that horn is here in the Four of Wands. So it almost feels like instead of like signaling the ending of the world, it's signaling the beginning of a new one. But you know, all ends are beginnings and all beginnings are endings, right? So the end waits for you at the beginning, as Reem said. Or received. So the Prince of Wands is here with this Princess of Cups. I think the Prince of Wands actually came out like at the top of the deck or something yesterday too. Whenever I used this deck last, and I was like, I don't even think I really read it. But this Princess of Cups came out as a future energy where it was the Two of Cups that was blocked by Judgment. And so I guess on the masculine side of things, he's still learning to work beyond his pain to claim the truth of who he could be. And it feels like there is a space of enlightenment here with the Seven of Wands. And 2 sevens is a 14. So I would say maybe the other 7 is the Chariot. So the light has been born from the darkness, but it isn't yet strong enough to blank. I don't know if it's like the light isn't strong enough to cast out other shadows, or the light isn't strong enough to be seen in the space of other lights, or what. We're still refining it. I feel like refinement came up somewhere. Maybe not. It's being honed and refined up here. I'm going to go ahead and see what's before and after the Empress. I saw her, I think, like pretty early on. So it's Strength and the Ace of Pentacles. And look, there's the moon. I feel like Strength did come out. It was Strength, the Nine of Cups. No, was it the Son of Wands? Because the Prince of Wands was up here. I think it was Strength, the Son of Wands, and the Hermit last time. And the Hermit was sitting in the space where that feminine energy was, because she's not sort of allowed to be fully present here. Gloria Mundi, Orania's Gate. So then we have this Hanged Man and the Knight of Swords around the Knight of Swords around the Giver, Six of Pentacles, and this is Moon in Taurus. Uranus is in Taurus right now. So there is an energy here where, and it may be Uranus trine Pluto, Uranus and Taurus. Oh, they're not even necessarily trining right now. It's going to be a while before they do that. But with Uranus in Taurus and Pluto in Capricorn, it's like Uranus is doing this surface level sort of shaking to get us to be less rigid, while Pluto is simultaneously like doing this subterranean shaking. And so it feels like there's this tower energy, but it's an energy that has the potential to split like all the way down to the root. Like it comes in the top and it cleaves all the way down. Because both Uranus and Pluto can sit in the space of change and transformation. And a lot of times it's uncomfortable because we're not necessarily in a position of welcoming it. A lot of times it seems that Pluto and Uranus come in and do things that we don't. With Pluto, it seems that more often than not, we've had the time to do it ourselves. With Uranus, maybe we didn't necessarily know so much. And I think that's why it's so important to be in a space of surrendering right now and allowing things to be let go. But with this Moon in Taurus and the Six of Pentacles, it does speak of emotional sort of attachments. And Moon in Taurus emotional attachment, it can not necessarily be good. It's just like, we're used to holding on to it for a while. Excuse me. Even if we didn't like it when we first got it, it's like we've had it so long that we can't really imagine what that space would be like without it. And while nature abhors a vacuum, maybe Taurus can sort of be the same, right? And it feels like the information is here. The knowledge is here with the Hanged Man and the Son of Swords. But the question is like whether we'll move forward with it or not. Like what are we going to do with it is the question more than anything else. On the bereaved, it's the Father of Cups and the Ace of Cups. And it's interesting because there's this energy where it's like sons won't become their fathers. Right? It's like what? I'm probably going to get the names mixed up. So I'll just say the Titan dude. Cronus. Saturn. Right? Yeah, Saturn, Cronus. Cronus, Saturn. Bro, where's my brain? I know these things. He killed his father, or overthrew his father. And then his child did the same to him. And there was a question in a game I played recently. And it's like, is this what it means to be a god? Sons kill their fathers or their mothers. And the dude is like, no, like, you're going to be different. And so there's this energy here, and especially going up into the Devil and the Two of Pentacles, bridging off of this Ouroboros energy. Ouroboros is the Wheel of Fortune, but the Ouroboros, the snake in this deck, still has legs. That means that this cycle started before, the happenings at the Garden of Eden. Because in the Garden of Eden, after the snake did convinced Eve to eat the apple, and then Adam saw Eve eating the apple, and he wanted to eat the apple. Like the snake was cursed to slither on its belly. And so this is a very, very, very old cycle here. And it's this energy of like, we've been repeating it. We've been almost gridlocked for a long time because we were our fathers. We never really broke those cycles. We never really did anything different. Which is, one second. What? Hold it. sons became their fathers, and sons were being their fathers for a long time. And it's that repetition again that kept us gridlocked because nothing really changed. But here, flowing down into this Princess of Cups, we have the opportunity to. Now, I was so confused. There is this energy here with the Three of Swords like this. It's carrying this energy where the mothers of old knew that eventually someday this cycle would be broken. And it almost feels like they've been silently suffering this whole time, sort of waiting for that to be the case. Where they've been sort of like present, but not necessarily. Because, like, the Five of Pentacles, it's usually a card of being out in the cold on your own. But it doesn't feel like she was outside. It feels like she was inside in the cold instead of being out in the cold. And so maybe there's also been this energy of mothers pouring into their sons slowly over time. And again, it's like there's not much feminine energy here present. Like, Isis is here in the Three of Swords. And then we have the High Priestess and the Five of Pentacles here clarifying the Princess of Cups. The Empress came out next to this Prince of Wands. This is interesting. I think this prince up here, there's something about that transmutation between the fire and the Three of Swords and the water and the Emperor. Something about crossing that bridge that sits here. And it feels like Empress energy is helping this son do it. So again, that's a little bit of that, like, mothers to their sons. But the influence of the father has still been almost too strong. And I almost feel like this strengthened Ace of Pentacles for the Empress is sort of mirroring this High Priestess Five of Pentacles energy for the Princess of Cups. Like knowing that one day the time would come and just needing to be strong until then. So ultimately, I guess I'd say closest to the moon. It's a question of how long we kind of sort of want to be near our limit with these Nine of Wands. It's like, how long do we want to continue sort of fighting certain things? How long are we going to keep holding on to pain? Because pain gives more pain, like leads to more hurt and pain. But also these Nine of Wands, it is a recognition that we have spent as much time in the energies as we have spent, and that it isn't necessarily easy to just sort of, cast everything off to the side and go full gung-ho down a new path. It is saying, though, that with this Ouroboros and the Four of Wands, it's like we've been in this cycle, we've been in the sort of cycles that we've been in for a very long time, yes. But before those were cycles of peace and prosperity and abundance for all. And that's what we're sitting in the space of being able to reclaim. And so, in us navigating these spaces of challenge and navigating these spaces of burden, do we have within us, can we acquire that which we need to break these old cycles? Right? Because again, with this like world tree, Mammarian type of energy here, there is this energy of like growth through experiences, through challenges and hardships, and that leading to wisdom, right? For it's almost like with feminine energies, it's intuitively sort of just like built within them. But for masculine energies as more external and expressive rather than internal and receptive, it's almost like there are things that we sort of have to experience to gain that same knowledge and wisdom, or a comparable knowledge and wisdom. And that's what we've been in the space of. And I guess it's, you can ask yourself, right? You can look at your own life and see where you learn best. Do you learn best through challenge, or do you learn best through sort of like osmosis? I guess, I don't know. Just by like hearing the information and then you just get it. Or do you have to go out and experience something? Does it take you like going through something to really get it? Because if that's how you learn, then that's how, you know, you're gonna sort of reach whatever point you're reaching. And maybe what the moon is starting to highlight and illuminate, it's the purpose and the reason for this. And again, context can be something that is so helpful. It doesn't necessarily make the work or the challenge any easier or any less difficult. But when you know what it's for, it's almost like it's not that it's rewarding, but like you know what it's for. And I think there is a little bit of a question here of whether or not we can trust. I think there is also a statement here that we've gone through enough, and that it's time for us to make that transit from like fire to water, or somewhere in between, right? I guess where the fire and the water meet, that's the veil. Given Nippelheimer energy, Niflheimer. So I'm gonna take this deck as it is, and there are two Chazakiel's Angel of the Mists. I guess I'll look before and after both of them. So this one is coming out with Kakabiel, Angel of Stars, and Barkiel, Angel of Pisces. The other one, let's see. It'll be funny if it's like Penamue. Oh, well, it's not that Penamue. I'm trying to think of who it would be. No, it's not this Penamue either. Boo. So this one is coming out with Idvakiel, Angel of Sagittarius, and Azazel, Angel of Sacrifices, with Ananiel, Angel of the Storms, at the bottom. It is interesting. I think that's what we're in right now. It's almost like that's what we're in right now. We're in this sort of in-between space. We're in between the fire that separates our hurt self from our healed self, and the water that sort of does the same. But the water, it's like that separates us from in a more like a sovereign space rather than a reactive space, right? And so this one is coming out with, tonight we pour the water from our bowls, the warmth from our hearts, and the breath from our flock. We bring an end to these necessities, not for their destruction, but in their honor, for in their absence we can truly see their glory. When the world we live in feels too constrained, our eyes lift to the horizon. The endlessness of the world calls for us to depart from our lives and become a part of the unknown. In this space, beyond the veil of the familiar, adventure awaits. A part of us never stopped existing in the wilderness. Advacio guides us to rejoin the union, to seek for the sake of seeking, to live for the sake of life. So there is this energy here that it's about, saying goodbye to the ways of old. And then we're coming into this energy where it is the silent field of swaying grass waved at the ocean above. The giants march past us by the thousand, thousand, and many more, infinite upon infinite. They don't look back, we stare on. When harm comes to the people, the relationships, and the things in our lives, we have to take time to help repair them. It's not easy, but bringing those pieces back together is what we have to be to live a good life. In those moments, we are close to Barkio. Deep down, everyone has a nurturing aspect. Choosing to cultivate it helps bring us closer to our truer selves. So cultivating those nurturing aspects, rather than sort of hanging on to all of this in the past. And again, like that's the Devil and the Two of Pentacles. It's almost like these mindsets, these ways of being, these patterns have kept us navigating the same cycles over and over. And it honestly feels like, it almost feels like it shouldn't have been this long. It almost feels like, we should have gotten the point by now. We should have learned the lesson by now. That it was a pit stop on our road to growth and progression as a collective. But it's almost like some energies found a way maybe to rebrand and to keep us here a little bit longer. Because for some reason, it's like we weren't recognizing or realizing that we were sort of navigating those spaces. And maybe that's something else that's being highlighted and illuminated. And it's not to make us sort of feel hopeless or that there isn't anything more that we're capable of. But it's like in illumination, we can really experience choice. And that's the thing about context. It's like we're always choosing. We're always making choices, but with context, we can see a little bit further out. And I think like that's what that moon was doing. It's almost like a maze, right? It's like if we're walking in a maze, but then we get to see like a little bit down the path. So we get to see when we're going to be coming into a dead end or something like that. Right, because you can see all the trees around it. You can't even see like the clouds that were in front of them. Well, I guess you can kind of see how there were clouds in there too. So it almost feels like this moon card sitting in the space of the solstice, it's offering us a choice between this bowl of water and the light. But the correct answer is to take both. Because it feels like to take one without the other is to almost resubmerge the self. To re-inundate. To christen or baptize back into, rather than to navigate out of, I guess. And it feels like there's going to be a lot of insight sort of taking place in the dark, within self, when we stop avoiding these spaces, right? Because this whole bottom row is dark. With the Five of Pentacles, the High Priestess, the Eight of Wands, and the Ace of Swords. but it's the darkness where the light is found, right? Where we find our light, at the very least, with this Seven of Wands energy. That again, the Seven of Wands came out with the Son of Wands. But there is almost this multifaceted evolution here. Because it's like at the same time we're going from this Nine of Wands to this Son of Wands, we're also becoming a Son of Cups. With this Temperance energy. I feel like it's an energy that is affirming how close we are to a new experience, but it's also affirming that it's like it's gonna take work. We're not necessarily out of the woods or done yet. Where'd that? There it is. I was like, where'd that Empress go? That's what I got. I'm gonna shuffle all these up and get some final messages, and then I will be out of your metaphorical hair. Out of your hair. I don't know. I'm sorry. Guess I'll start with this deck first. Oh, I'll do these first. So I'm going to timestamp this. 107. Final messages. I hope this, like... I feel like lately nothing is really like concrete, if that makes any sense. It's all kind of sort of up in the air, kind of sort of. Or not necessarily absolute, but I think it's almost like it's something that's so broad it can almost play out in so many aspects. And when things hit you at the core, then they can take any sort of like, they're almost infinitely expansive, right? So imagine that you bite in, imagine that there's an apple, right? Or a fruit. Imagine there's a fruit and the core of the fruit is rotten. So if you see any bruises or imperfections on the surface, then that means it's traveled all the way from the core to like the surface where you can see it. Now, a lot of times when we think of things or when we look at things, they bruise on the surface or they're eaten away at on the surface. So you can cut away until like the infection is gone. And then you have whatever is remaining, right? Like I've seen a bad onion and it's like, well, you just keep peeling the layers until that rot is like no more. But in these ways, it's like, well, it's rotten from the inside out. Like that wounding has happened closer to the core rather than on the surface. And so that's why I think sometimes things go a little deeper than we would necessarily think. And why it may seem that the work is never over or why it continues. But again, it's almost like with some contextualization, if you know that it's closer to the core, then maybe you can almost sort of go for like more core remedies rather than topical remedies. Is that? Oh, no! I saw Pinamue and I got excited. But it's this one again. What hath been brought across the fiery hilltop, these sculptures of men whose names the angels forgot. And it's interesting because it's almost like in the other Pinamue card, nothing was set in stone. Or these like Pinamue was assembling these sculptures, and this card, the sculptures are completed. Eve! Hey! How you doing? I watched I watched like literally maybe a minute of the Libra reading that you did. So I feel like I want to say congratulations on starting the Shadow series for the Zodiac, and that I'm proud of you for going into that space. I know it isn't always easy, um, especially when we do want to offer like a hope or a remedy or a solution. I haven't finished it yet, but you know. So we get this Pinamue. It's almost like everything was completed for us, but by the time it was finished, we found ourselves, I don't want to say undeserving. You were nervous to post. Ah, I'm glad you did. The bottom of the deck is Rimph. The flame that cracks its skin is the same as the fire from within. In alabaster form, folded like the steel of a sword, always pressing onward, the sharp beat of its heels grinding the past into dust. This is that energy where it's almost like the world has been in so much turmoil for so long in so many areas and places that we don't even really remember or know what it means to truly be at peace. And I think some of us can be at peace, but it's time for like a more global, a more inclusive peace, I guess. Because again, it's like it feels like we've been in this cycle for a long time, but before this cycle was another that was peaceful, right? They call the Greco-Roman time where the Titans ruled the Golden Age. It was the Golden Era. We didn't have any laws because we didn't need them. People were just like good people. People were just like compassionate and caring, and they didn't do wrong by others. And everyone was so like taken care for and provided for and abundant that they didn't really need to. But then it's like, the gods come in and for whatever reason, well, maybe because Kronos was swallowing them all. But I mean, look at what they did with the world after they took over from the Titans. Maybe he was swallowing them for good reason, you know. But I guess it couldn't have been like that forever. Oh, there's justice, Amat. Those sculptures of men whose names the angels forgot. When Rimp said the fire that cracks their skin is the same as the fire from within, it almost feels like those sculptures are coming back to life. Because it's like the soul is coming back online and it's reanimating those sculptures, if that makes any sense. And remember that in the other Pinamue was taking the lantern around the graveyard at night, and nobody knew why. It's almost like he was incubating them, keeping those sparks alive. But now it's like the spark is something that we have to go in and ignite for ourselves. The angels can no longer do it for us. Because we're coming into a time where it's almost like we're becoming of age. And so now we're making more of our own decisions. Now we're deciding more. Everything can't be done for us. And I think there's like this suite of difficult lessons or difficult experiences that we went through to teach us something that we're going to use or need later on. That it's almost like it's a purely educational experience, but in like the worst way possible. The Five of Cups, the Sun, and the Ace of Swords. There's that Ace of Swords energy again. So the Five of Cups is here as the space of prayer and seeking from the divine. It feels like this Ace of Swords is going to be coming to this area where the sun is, and it's going to touch the tip of its sword to the water to separate the blues from the reds, right? Because you see around the snake egg is the blue, and then it's red on the outside, and then it's like blue and red here. But in the separation of the two, it feels like it's going to give us some kind of clarity. This is honestly, it's reminding me of the moat, where there's something on the inside and something on the outside. And if they're still, if there's no movement, then there's no capacitance, there's no power. But as things move, as the center moves, then it causes a movement in the outside. And that movement, it's like in the separation between them, it's like a battery. It's like it charges this battery. And so if things have been a little stuck externally, it's almost like it's to produce movement in another sort of realm. I don't want to say it, but it almost feels like we're supposed to get overwhelmed to the point where we go asking. That's why. Because when we get overwhelmed, we drop resistance. Before we're overwhelmed, there are things that we're too... Oh, look, Judgment at the bottom of the deck. With the Lord of Cups and the Ace of Cups. Aww, I love that. See, that's him doing this little alchemy that he needs to do. He's learning to fill his own cup. And that moon. Whatever magic that is, I don't know. But it's almost like before we reach that point where we break down, where we give up, where we're crying, there's too much resistance, there's too much pride to do the things that we know that we sort of need to do. It's like, we're pursuing other avenues, we're seeking out other options because we haven't exhausted all of the possibilities yet. And there is a point where it's like, you could sort of go for the thing that even though you have a lot of resistance. Lady of Wands and the Moon Chariot. It feels like the feminine is in a space of calling back to her that which is sort of divine and belongs to her. And then this, I want to say Flusa, even though it's looking 12. It's looking real 12. It's looking real 12. But it's like her calling that back to her and her coming into this space. It's doing the same on the other side for the masculine. But it feels like the masculine, because of the position that it's in, it's less likely to sort of take up the same mantle in this space of rebalancing, right? Ooh, the Two of Pentacles. This Two of Pentacles reminds me of another show where there were these evil desert spirits that they were told to beware of. There were these men, and there were these evil desert spirits that they told everybody to beware of. But the evil desert spirits were just spirits that would help the women. Like, they literally helped the women do anything. And so they weren't evil, but the women, knowing the truth of these spirits of the desert, would have upset the balance of this masculinely male-dominated little sort of area. It reminds me of that because they wore red dresses. Also, I had a dream a while ago with some of my favorite Canadian women, and they were wearing red dresses. And it was funny because I feel like I was on a study abroad or something, and they came home, and I freaked out because I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't do my homework. But I was like, oh wait, I did my homework already. In real life, I procrastinate and I play games first and do homework later. But in the dream, I actually did all of my work first so I could just take a break. And so when they came home, it was already done. It also feels like that comet that's in the Ten of Wands and another card, it's coming back to this tree. It feels like the fire is going into the tree. And it's going into the tree close to the roots. So it's that energy. It's like these sculptures of men on that fiery hilltop. They're starting to glow. Because the fire within is starting to crack its skin. And they're gonna, like, the statues are gonna burst out into living people again. But it's like, the names, whose names the angels forgot, it's like the angels can't do it for us. Like, that's the level of stuff that we have to do for ourselves. The angels can't force you to be like a decent person. Right? Or anybody else. Okay. I don't know why the name Shelly just popped into my mind. It was like, come through, Shelly. I saw this one girl. Yeah. I saw this one girl at Walmart the other day. I've been home for like a year and a half now. I'm just now starting to see people that like I went to school with, etc. And I was with my brother, and I looked at my brother, and I was like, is that Shelly? I was like, you know that girl we saw, or that woman? Well, I saw that girl. You know that girl we saw earlier? Was that Shelly? Shelly from the church? And then as I said that, literally someone from across the store yelled, Shelly! And I was like, yep, that was Shelly. The Dreamer of Pentacles is here. Oh, I never noticed that. The crab is sacrificing the wolf, and the rooster is under that, and all of this is happening in this keyhole. Excuse me, and the key kept coming out in the Lenormand, the Mirror Truth Lenormand. So that's the moon. The wolf is from the moon card, but Cancer is associated with the moon. But since this is a black crab, maybe it's the dark side of the moon. There's something that's transpiring in the space of darkness. It's a transmutation. Or it's whatchamacallit, like a transfusional type of energy. But it's like it's happening before the rooster crows, the signaling of the dawn. It's almost like it can only happen in this space, or it's a lot more. It happens a lot easier in this space. Again, because when times are better, then there's a lot more resistance for us to do certain things. And so while we're in this space of a lowered resistance, maybe because of a sort of desperation and maybe a hopelessness, but it's like this is the time to really almost maybe let some of this stuff go. It doesn't feel like it's killing the wolf. It feels like it's draining its blood for some reason, but it feels like it's for like a medical reason. Or like for a good purpose. And I don't know if it's like, if there's a toxin that runs in the blood, then if you drain a safe amount of blood and then the body reproduces it, then the new blood will be free of this toxin. But it's in the bloodstream, so we have to let it out. Also, I guess that speaks to the things that we've been carrying on. It does kind of look like a snow globe. It speaks to the things that we've been carrying on, like, fathers to sons, more so than mothers to daughters, at least within the context of this. So in this, speaking of Flusa, this would be a Flusa and Kanefa energy, right? The bloodletting. For the feminine energy, it's the menstruation. For older masculine energy, it was the hunt, the first hunt, right? When you come of age, you go out and you hunt, and you don't come back into the village until you have done whatever, right? It's interesting because it feels like they both carry emotional weights, but in different ways. And it feels like a hunt back in the day, it just like inherently involved more of an appreciation for the animal that sort of like gave its life or that lost its life rather than, hunting purely for sport. But there is this almost Lilith like energy here. This also reminds me of a movie I saw recently when they were told to look inside and there was something hidden inside the body of somebody. And it feels like this crab is very surgical, right? It feels like this crab isn't pointlessly or aimlessly just like pinching into this little wolf puppy. And so maybe there is an energy. Again, it feels surgical. It feels medical. It feels like a medical operation. It doesn't feel like, an angry crab that's just going around trying to kill little puppies. And it feels like the energy that we're in is also the same. Because I know that, like, I can be very sort of unique in what affects me. And I know that there are certain things that have affected me and impacted me greatly that wouldn't necessarily impact a lot of people the same way. And in that, because I experience the things that impact me, especially some of the things that a lot of other people don't care about as much, that's how I can, like, for me, it was like, okay, so this is like a challenge for me. Like, this was given to me to get me to overcome something. And it's almost that energy. Over here, we have the Six of Swords. And it's funny that yesterday we saw the Two of Swords in the Tarot Apocalypsis with the dude at a chessboard. Here it's the Six of Swords with the dude at a chessboard. But if he can win the game, then it's like, it feels like that's a piece of his soul, or that's the fire from within. And so it is about navigating these spatial spaces of emotional and mental challenge and overwhelm to get to that space where it's calmer. But it's almost like it's partially going to be calmer because it is, but it feels like it's also partially going to be calmer because of what we gain in this space by continuing to sort of carry on. And the bottom of the deck is that Two of Pentacles, right? The thing at the bottom that sets her free, that's what he's playing the game to try to sort of like win, I guess. And look, he's wearing the red shirt. She's wearing the red dress. I was looking at my grandma when she was in the little scooty cart in the store, and she wore like all red today. She like wore a little red sweatshirt looking thing with some red like sweatpants looking things. And I looked at my little grandma in all red, just I was like, okay. Bottom of this deck is the Two of Cups. Or this half of the deck. Two of Cups, Two of Pentacles. Yeah, see, there's something that's being removed that prevents us from being able to experience this. Right? It's like, this is what we're in right now. And it's interesting because, again, it feels like the shadow is what's actually going in and helping us do this. But a lot of us have such a strange relationship with the shadow that it's almost like we wouldn't allow for it to do that for us. We don't sort of necessarily look at what it points out to us. We more sort of preemptively try to sort of stop it, I guess, and disallow it from doing what it's placed within us to do. Maybe, right? Always take it as it resonates. You ain't gotta listen to a gosh darn word I say. I actually encourage you to use your own intuition and discernment. Oh my gosh. This thing has been still the whole time. I wish I had little clamps. I wanted to do a reading where I like do a little Bifrost sort of action and see which realm comes out, and then we dive into that. But that would require me to do more research, and I feel like that's a Russell thing. Maybe I will. We'll see. Okay. Daughter of Cups. Oh. Seven of Pentacles, Five of Wands, and Temperance. Bottom of the deck is the Three of Swords. So we're finally going to hear... So this, it's actually... so God of War on the PlayStation 4 deals with Norse mythology. And I bought the collector's edition for the game. And it came with this cloth map. So this is the cloth map from the God of War game. Technically not new. I got it at release, so maybe like last year. I just haven't really used it. I can't find the thing that I've been using, and I saw this. So I was like, oh, I'll use this. So this is a little bit, finally, about what the more feminine energy, I guess, has been going through. I don't think so, because this, again, it's coming through as a psyche energy. Associated with the soul and like spiritual awakening. And there's this energy. It's like we are so used to how things were that shifting into these new paradigms, it's causing confusion. And it almost feels like there's a little bit of a headache in trying to reconcile the old and the new, where we could just sort of accept the old. Or accept the old. Accept the old for what it was and move into the new. But there's also the thing about the Three of Swords in this deck. Oh, with the Ace of Swords under it. Look at this. Ace of Swords right there. I love it. It's almost faded in this deck because that's the red string of fate. It's like these challenging moments, these knots that are woven into our web that we can't untangle. And it's not for us to untangle them, but it's also not for us to sort of like not continue weaving beyond them. Because again, it's like there are certain things that have to happen to encourage other things. And a lot of times growth, progression, movement within the self is triggered by difficult experiences. I think this also speaks to almost the pieces of self that we've had to sacrifice in order to continue sort of fitting into the scheme of the world, right? And how sort of like fragmented we become because of that. All of the things that we do that don't really agree with us simply because we have to make a living or we have families to take care of. It's necessities. And that's what this Temperance card is. And that's why this Temperance card is crying. Because there are things that it had to sacrifice. And so this Daughter of Cups, it's almost the space of like where we are because of the things that we've sacrificed. And also like look at the colors in the shadow, right? And the colors of Temperance. It's these really, really sort of rigid ways of thinking and being that we subject ourselves to exist in the world as comfortably as we can, but it still is at the sacrifice of a lot. Dreams, wishes, passions, desires, what have you. And it's almost like those are the pieces of us that are begging to be lived and experienced. And that's interesting, because maybe that's your shadow that's like, hey, like, why don't we do this thing that we've always wanted to do? But what surfaces, it's almost the pain of like the sacrifice that you've made in not doing that and being reminded of those things. And it's almost like in some ways, like you're not being reminded to be tormented, you're being reminded so that like you pick it up again, especially if you're asking for direction. Ooh, the World card with the 7 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Yeah, when we find that, it's like we're going to exist in the world in a whole new way. And the more we can stand in that, the more the world outside of us is changed. Because it's almost like, you being in the space of living authentically encourages other people to be in the space of living authentically, both because they see you and, could be inspired by you, but also because you are adding to that frequency in the world. Right? So let's say that frequency of authenticity is at a 2 right now, and you would bump it up to a 3, and then the people who see you would bump it up to like and the people who see you, like that bumps it up to maybe like a 25. And like at 25, then that's when it starts to exist as like it globally like raises up a notch. So now that there are people who aren't even directly connected to you, but they just decide one day to wake up and authentically be themselves, and then in the network of their influence, and then all of a sudden it's like enough people are doing it to make it more of a reality here. Either because they can point to someone and say, well, look, they're living their life authentically and happily, yeah, I can do it too. Or because it's just like, it's almost like since more people are doing it, then it's just within this space, it makes it more feasible, right? Because even if they don't know or see you, just you being in that energy on this plane makes it more energetically possible. I feel like I didn't explain that well at all, but that's what it was, or is. That's what it is. Okay, all right. Oh gosh, come on! This thing's sliding all over. It's sliding all over. Ooh. Stronghold of the Veil, what is your message? Oh, look! There's a little wolf. There's a little wolfie. Yeah, I feel like that wolf it's been operated on to move into the future. Oop, well. Yeah, it's being operated on. And it's not a crab. This time it's a little lobster, but it's the death card. It's the card of transition. This is Scorpio. The nodes transit into, South Node transits into Scorpio, I believe, in January. Let me check real quick. Is that Darian? Hold up, was that Darian? It is Darian. Yes, girl, connect me to Darian. Hello? I love when LinkedIn, like, suggest people that I actually know. Who the freak is this? Oh, hold up, y'all. A glance of pharmacovigilance commitment to the safer use of medicines. And I see this maple leaf on it. Oh, how do I save this event? Mmm. Mmm. That's getting me a little excited. Somebody knows, like, LinkedIn high-key be speaking to me sometimes. Oh, wait, that's all I had to do? What? Well, I'm going to send this to him real quick. 1 second, y'all. I apologize. This can wait. Pharmacovigilance. Sign me up for that. What is this? Some Latin that I can't read, probably. Who's that? Ooh. Yep, there we go. What's at the bottom of the deck? The Two of Swords. This is almost an energy of, like, sometimes you gotta bite the bullet. It almost feels like spiritually biting the bullet a little bit. Because I don't know how much antiseptic there is for um, what is transpiring or what is happening for these processes. Oh, that's what I picked up my phone for. To check and see if I can see when the nodes transit. Oh, Moon is in Sagittarius right now, conjuncting the Ascendant. Wait, Moon in Sagittarius, that's the Nine of Wands. So according to this app thingy, the node transits into Cancer January 18th, 2022. Or that's when it'll be like 00 Sagittarius, so maybe the day after that it'll fully be like 29 degrees and a bunch of minutes Cancer. Or Scorpio, sorry. Because the nodes transit retrograde through the zodiac. So they go backwards instead of going forwards like most other planets. I do want to look at the I Ching for this, though. Because I feel like reading the I Ching. So this is going to be... Excuse me. Death is wind, which is interesting. Very, very interesting. Wind over the mountain. Okay. Wind over the mountain. This is I Ching number 53, Steadfast. Come through, little mini headache. Yes. So Steadfast, slow and steady. A tree can grow at the peak of a mountain if it grows slow and steady with deep roots. Building a strong foundation is more important than endeavoring for higher branches. Do not seek overnight success. Forbear from instant gratification. Do not try to change your nature. Instead, embrace your nature. Play to your own strengths. You are at the beginning of a long journey. You find yourself in the midst of unfamiliar circumstances, and you will have to adapt quickly. Before you know for sure what it is you are up against, retreat to a position of safety, slow and steady to the summit. So, that reminds me of, because I had a dream when they were just like repeating stuff at me over and over. And it was something about like the wind or something. And I was telling Reem about it. And then before I went to bed on Twitter, I saw someone posted. It's like, if you have deep roots, then you don't need to fear the wind, and it's an African proverb. And it reminded me of that. If you have deep roots, then there's no need to fear the wind. What is that? Was it the fool shall inherit the wind, or the meek will inherit the earth? Hold up, let me find it. It reminds me of that as well. And isn't that a movie? Like Inherit the Wind, that's about the John Scopes trial, the science teacher who tried to teach or who taught evolution in class, and then like it made a bunch of people upset. In the 1920s, Tennessee school teacher Bertram Cates is put on trial for violating the Butler Act, a state law that prohibits public school teachers from teaching evolution instead of creationism. Yep, that is that movie. And apparently it's like the dude who did it in real life went to my high school or something. I don't know. I don't even think he graduated from my high school. I think he just went there for a little bit. The meek shall inherit the earth. Here we go. Matthew 5:5 is the 5th verse of the 5th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew in the New Testament. It is also the 3rd verse of the Sermon on the Mount, and also the 3rd of what are known as the Beatitudes. Let's see what it says, though. Content, I guess. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Okay, that's it? Sure. Oh, wrong cards. Oh, I used a lot of decks. This is taking a while. That's fine. That is not going to do anything. Oh, I forgot I said I was going to look into it when I got back home. It's the Wi-Fi. Okay. On a message from the Total Apocalypse. Who did? Ooh, that's what, 3 cards? Bottom of the deck is Death. Ooh, the 10 of Pentacles, the 8 of Swords, and the Prince of Pentacles. Maybe this is that energy of the meek will inherit the earth. I think it is. Well, it might be Eve. Oh, reset it. Oh my gosh. When somebody got a Gemini moon. When they got Gemini anywhere in their chart, and they're just like, why? Why? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Go seek a professional. So press the button. Sorry, y'all. I don't know why. I don't know. Now you want to watch it? I should watch it too. Eight of Swords, Eight of Swords, Ten of Pentacles, Prince of Pentacles. There's another Prince energy. Masculine energy is coming out as the princes. I think they're coming out as princes because, like, the king knows how to work with the queen, and I don't know how many masculine energies have been fully working with queens, right? I don't know how many queens have been fully queens, right? But it's like that old toxic masculine energy is tied up, can't access this Ten of Pentacles, and the Knight of Pentacles, Prince of Pentacles is like got a whole peacock, a whole bunch of abundance. And the Death card is here. So that it's like the energies that are sort of most prevalent and most rewarded, most prolific and abundant on Earth. It's going to be shifting from that old, really self-absorbed, doesn't really care how it impacts others' energy. Like that dog eat dog world mentality is going to be fading out as we move forward. And I think people are going to be in a space of appreciating more too, those who contribute. So last deck, but not the least deck, the Vice Versus. Oh gosh, oh, almost gave me a little heart attack. This whole deck almost went flying everywhere. Who was that? Was that the Nine of Pentacles? No, not you. Oh, I guess I'm not going to find her. Wait, is this her? Is this her? Yeah, here she is. Yeah, it is the Nine of Pentacles. She popped up. And it's this side of the Nine of Pentacles, too. Not the side on the back. See, she's already, just like that Lady of Wands energy, already sort of almost sitting out there waiting. Calling masculine energy to the forefront. Ooh, come through, headache. Yes. I'm just playing. Go away. I just saw the moon. Oh, that's a whole bunch of cards that almost tried to slip out. Okay. In this deck, if cards flip over, then I'm just like, oh, you want to be on the other side. Okay. The Eight of Pentacles. Bottom of the deck is the Three of Wands, where we see this masculine energy learning to balance fire and water. Love that! But it's like with this Eight of Pentacles, it's a process. Top of the deck is this King of Swords. And it's the front side of the King of Swords. Usually I see the back side of the King of Swords, which can talk about sort of going at things alone when you don't necessarily need to, taking on the brunt of the storm by yourself. Here's a king. Well, we saw the Prince of Swords earlier. Well, this is, again, with the Eight of Pentacles, it's like this is what they're coming into the space of. It's the king that can recognize what is necessary, I guess. And this side of the Eight of Pentacles, it's almost the space of like us doing work unobserved. Like on the other side, you can see he's being watched. And like there's a little child admiring him. But on this side, we don't actually see the pentacles. We only see the reflection of them. On this side, we see the actual pentacles. But it doesn't feel like we necessarily feel observed in this space. It almost feels like, you know, we may feel that we're doing all this work, we're doing all this growth, this healing, this evolution, and we're not necessarily seeing comparable sort of rewards for the work that we're doing. Or it feels like unceasing and unending. But it's like it is... There is a reason behind it. It's not for no reason. And although we may not immediately get that payout, it's like what the I Ching said about foregoing instant gratification, right? It's like the reward will come, the time will come. We will see the fruits of our labors. but maybe it just ain't complete yet. You know what I mean? So that's what I got. I don't know if this was helpful. I mean, I guess this was a general collective reading, and there are a lot of collective themes. I feel like there's a lot of collective experiences right now, for certainly, but the way in which we're all impacted may not necessarily be the same. Or it may be highlighting and illuminating different things for each of us. And so to continue to sort of like operate in this collective space is either for something to be probably pretty vague, or for something to be more specific but applies to almost less people overall. Maybe not. I just see the things that I'm allowed to see and read how and what I read, and other people do what is for them to do, and all together hopefully we do something to help. But again, like, this is how I saw the moon last night. It was between the trees and behind the some clouds, and it looked like it was just illuminating all of that in the darkness, right? And it reminded me, because I was telling Reem about it. I sent her the picture earlier, and I was like, it reminded me of the video that you uploaded, Eve, for, was it Aries? That talked about the thicket of thorns, because it almost looked like a thicket of briar around it, and it reminded me of that. I didn't watch it yet, but now I gotta. So that's what I got. I hope y'all have a good whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that if you need some context or some clarity or some whatever you need to get through whatever you're going through, that you get it. It feels like there are some things that can only be done or discovered or seen in times like these, because otherwise we're a little bit more too busy or hectic, or there's other things going on in life, and it's almost taken as it resonates, almost like whatever we're coming into is big enough, or it's, I almost want to say, sacred enough to warrant this kind of pause. And so in that, I know in an attempt to understand things or to feel like we know what's happening, we'll sort of latch on to almost anything that kind of makes sense or that fits what it is that we already believe, but maybe be a little open and flexible. And I'll try to do the same. So, thank you, Eve, for being here. It was lovely. I will catch y'all when I catch y'all. And happy Mercury direct. It went direct yesterday. Neptune is about to go retrograde. Is about to station retrograde. But, we'll handle it when we get there. Right? All right. Bye.